A school within a school. The first story I learned about took place in 2010 in the town of Great Barrington, Massachusetts. Sam Levin, a student at Monument Mountain High School, started the Independent Project, which he describes as a student-run school within a school. Sam had some experience in leading self-directed projects from a previous project he started as a freshman called Project Sprout, where he and his peers created a student-run garden at their school to provide food to the cafeterias in the school district, reference 237. By the time Sam graduated, there were 50 teens working to grow a half-acre of vegetables that provided food to 3 cafeterias in his district, 3 days a week. Sam described in a TEDx talk how his student-run garden inspired him to start his student-run school. I saw kids waking up at 6 in the morning to harvest potatoes. I saw kids getting in the garden at 8 a.m. on a Saturday, even if they'd been out partying the night before. Even if they weren't getting any payment, any credit in school, nothing. Yet at the same time, I saw the exact opposite in school. I saw people being unhappy, not engaged, not learning. I couldn't reconcile the commitment and passion I saw in the garden with the lack of engagement and enthusiasm I saw in classrooms. I began to ask, why can't kids wake up at 8 in the morning to read Kafka or do a science experiment? The difference came down to the fact that, in the garden, the kids were in charge. One day I came home from school, pretty exhausted, sat down at the dinner table with my mom, and said, I'm sick of it. I can't do it anymore. I can't watch my friends not learning anything because there's nothing to engage them. I can't watch people be unhappy 6 hours a day, 180 days a year. My mom, a little sick of my whining, said kind of offhandedly, why don't you start your own school? So I said, okay, I will. Reference 238. Creating a student-run program inside an actual public school is not an easy task, and Sam had to make several compromises in order to get it approved. That being said, Sam did pull it off, and it didn't cost the students any money, and they earned credits towards their diplomas. Sam found a supportive staff member to be their group's faculty advisor, who gave them more credibility and helped them navigate the politics of the situation. Sam wrote about the challenging objections. While I was trying to make my case, one of the teachers in the absolutely not camp was getting more and more frustrated. He was actually visibly red in the face. Finally, he blurted out, "It's ridiculous to think that kids can be trusted to learn on their own." Reference 239. But Sam persevered, and the Curriculum Steering Committee approved a semester-long pilot program in a 6-3 vote. Then they got the school committee, the principal, and the superintendent to approve it. Compromising with people in power can result in stripping away the more radical aspects of a proposal, but Sam persisted, even having to deal with a teachers' union representative who said that if they awarded credits to teens for classes that teachers didn't teach, he'd have the whole union come after them to shut down their program. The compromise was that students would get a semester's worth of credits, but they would be general credits, and they'd have to make up half an English credit in whatever other subjects they needed to graduate. Reference 240. You can see that even though the program was approved, there was some frustrating inflexibility that hindered this from being a completely independent program. This resulted in a very unique, self-directed semester learning experience, but not a full alternative to school. Another restriction because of subject matter credits was that the program only made sense for juniors and seniors to participate, since freshmen and sophomores had more fixed credit requirements. The sophomores also had to take statewide standardized tests, which this program would interfere with. Sam's school within a school was allowed to have a maximum of 10 students. They created a 3-question application and accepted all 8 students who applied, including both A students and students at risk of flunking out of school. Finding a physical space for their school was challenging, even with support from their advisor. As Sam writes in his book, A School of Our Own, "We went through all this bureaucracy to get the school approved. They finally said yes, and then they had nowhere to put us. Throughout the summer, Mr. Huron and I would call each other with ideas. I've got it, I'd say, the auditorium. Already asked, Mr. H would say, spring musical gets priority. It became a joke between us. We'll go to school in the garden and build fires in the winter. We'll construct a teepee in the hallway. I thought Mr. Huron was making another joke when he finally told me where we could put the school. He called one day in August. "Well, I've got good news and bad news," he said. "The good news is that the school has offered us a space for the school that can be our own, and we can use it all day long without interruption." "Awesome," I said. "What could be the bad news?" "Well," he said, "you're not going to like where it is." It was the coach's office in the girls' locker room. Reference 241. You can actually see inside their classroom in the video they created titled The Independent Project on the Piers Pope YouTube channel. Reference 242. The first half of the school day was spent doing more traditional academic work in science, humanities, math, and English. The students would choose their own questions at the start of the week that they were interested in finding the answer to, then present to the group each week what they found in their research. The second half of their school day was spent doing independent projects, they called individual endeavors, that would last all semester and result in a finished project. For example, one student aimed to write a novel, another to write a play, another to write a compilation of short stories. One did a research study into women's trauma and recovery, one made a short film, one worked in the culinary arts, etc. I was really inspired by the way these teens appeared to work as a team, collaborating with one another, giving each other feedback, working toward their individual goals as a collective unit. The school within a school was student-run in a sense, that there were no teachers, but they did still have to answer to the school board and principal and superintendent. Well, a part of me wants to criticize this program and say it wasn't radical enough because they still ultimately had authority figures ruling over them. It was an amazing accomplishment that actually worked. This was a real thing, not just an idea. The school within a school fulfilled the vision and goals that Sam set forth. As he wrote, "I made 3 assumptions when building my new school. The first assumption was that the school I wanted to build would be a reality. My second assumption was that it was going to happen within the walls of my public high school. I've since talked to people who want to create an independent project, and they have asked me about starting charter schools or creating a homeschooling program, an after-school movement, or an online school. That never occurred to me. I wanted things to be better for my friends and classmates. So, in my mind, it was always going to be part of my public school, and it was going to be available to everyone. And finally, though I knew my school's curriculum would look unlike anything in traditional school, I assumed that, physically, my school would look like any other. When I daydreamed about my senior year, I pictured a classroom with a chalkboard and a whiteboard and desks and posters on the wall." Reference 243. A natural benefit of having a school within a school is that they didn't have any issues with transportation. They also were able to still eat lunch with their friends, participate in sports teams, and get diplomas. I contacted Sam Levin, who is now getting his PhD in zoology from Oxford, to ask about the current status of the Independent Project. Since he has not been a student there for years, he suggested I contact the faculty member who championed the project, Michael Powell, who is a guidance counselor at Monument Mountain High School. Michael told me the Independent Project has not run for the last 2 years, which means it lasted for about 7 years. Michael stated the reason it did not run. He said, "We didn't have a group of students who came forward wanting to do it, and it is a program that needs to be student-initiated." Reference 244.